The brazen attack on a teacher in the Eastern region by some students simply because he refused to allow them to cheat in an exams, and the increasing indiscipline on our campuses, especially within Ghana's senior high schools, have caused people to ask questions about really what's going on and what needs to be done, who should be held accountable for what's going on, and how we could deal with the problem head on. Well, that's what we want to look at tonight. Hello, good evening, and welcome to Agenda. My name is Beatrice Edu, and like I did tell you, tonight we're going to go into the growing indiscipline on our campuses within Ghana's senior high schools, and beyond the roles of the Ghana Education Service and other stakeholders, also look at, again, the role of parents in ensuring that we're able to deal with this problem. I do have on the panel with me, on my immediate right, Nanaya Ajantwa. She's a parent and presidential staffer. Good evening to you, ma'am. Thank you so much for joining us.
Good evening. Nice to be here. Happy to be here.
Thank you very much. I have on my extreme right Mr. Ralph Gapson. He's Secretary, National Council, PTA. Good evening to you as well. Thank you very much for joining us.
It's a pleasure always engaging you. The name is Gapson Kofi Raphael.
Gapson Kofi Raphael, thank you very much. Of course, I did have as well Mr. Adib Sani. He's a security analyst with Jatike Center. Good evening to you, sir. Thank you so much for joining us.
Good evening.
It's your first time on Agenda.
Absolutely.
Thank you for
Most
joining us.
interestingly, I should have been here long ago, but it's
exactly,
okay.
Yes. We do have a video call with us, Dr. Ishahak Waru, Acting Director General, GES, in charge of quality and access. Good evening to you, Doc. Thank you so much as well for joining us.
Good evening.
It's great to have you as well. Remember that we're streaming live as well on 3FM 92.7. Do send us your comments and we'll read them back to you. I want to start with you, Mr. Gapson Raphael, and perhaps get your thoughts on how, first of all, we got here.
Well, first of all, thank you for the opportunity, and then let me greet my co-panel members and then our brother, who is also a renowned educationist and the Deputy Director General in charge of quality and access at the Ghana Education Service. I think that we must all admit that the society that we find ourselves in has become more complex than it used to be. And for that matter, there has been increased societal violence and aggression generally among us as a country. And we also have to agree that there have been breakdown of traditional values and respect for authority. There's that general breakdown. Formerly, when we're schooling, we see the community as a place that every adult or even your colleague can call you to order. And if you don't try to kowtow, the whole society will come after you. Now we've become more intrinsic than extrinsic in our engagement with people. So all these things are part of the issues that we find ourselves in. We can also rule out the effect of social media influence on student behavior. Because technology has become so sophisticated, students are exposed, youth are exposed to all kinds of issues, and sometimes we try to compare our world with the world out there, which is more advanced, and they have systems that is better able to regulate the society that they find themselves in. We can also rule out the fact that the inadequate enforcement of disciplinary policies in schools. We have a code of conduct for teachers. And in designing that code of conduct for teachers, the Ministry of Education and Ghana Education Service see it extremely necessary to involve the teacher unions in crafting out that code of conduct. But when it comes to a code of conduct for students, we don't see much of the parental engagement in that space. So sometimes the parents see themselves at the dark side of that whole document. As I speak to you, I remember the last administration, before they exited power, around early January or the latter part of January 2024, they issued two public documents trying to, first of all, regulate the PTAs into the PAs. And then on that same day, they also issued this document trying to have a code of conduct for students. But a careful look at that document actually it's a very fine document. But the challenge we've had with that document is that if you go through the document and you read it to the latter, you don't see the parents, the leadership of the parents like us and other PTA bodies coming on board to be part of the stakeholder engagement in probably trying to make sure that when these things are done, we will not only leave it at that level, we will make sure that when we are admitting students into schools, we pick that document and then we give it to the parent as part of admission criteria and give one to the parent and give one to the child too when you are doing, when they are trying to take to the students through orientation course in the school system because it's a new environment. So some of these issues, because we've not been able to fix this well as a society, it has led to all kinds of things that we find ourselves in today.
And we'll go into a lot of what you're saying. You're looking at this starting from the breakdown of societal values. You talk about social media, and I seem to get the understanding that you think that school authorities or stakeholders are also keeping parents in the dark, and they do not seem to get really what's going on. But I want to come to you, Mr. Sani, before I come to you, Nanaya. In some cases, we've seen the students using weapons, knives and guns, and just wanted to get really what kind of trends you, for instance, have seen in the last few years as regards these kinds of violence that we've seen on our school compounds.
Well, thank you so much. I mean, we have seen at a point an increasing trend of violence involving the use of very offensive weapons, such as guns and machetes in schools. The recent one is the one in Kumasi, where an individual got to the school with a gun. It is quite worrying. It, however, raises some very pertinent issues with respect to the societies that these schools find themselves. And let me state emphatically that schools, in many cases, are a reflection of the societies in which they are. Okay, for example, we had an incident in Boku where an individual was shot on the campus. Okay, so if there's violence all around the school, it finds its way spilling into the school environment. So the weapons that they are exposed to outside, in one way or another, find its way into the school environment. Secondly, a lot of these students are exposed to violence. A child growing up seeing daddy hits mommy, mommy trying to retaliate by throwing a cap at daddy. Some hang out with very bad influences within their societies. I mean, there's this individual I spoke to some time ago. He's a drug addict, and I asked how it all started. He said there's this watchman they had, okay? And there was so much security in the house, like, so strict he couldn't go out. So it's a watchman who is able to go out with him to a wee base, sort of, So that's where he got introduced to this whole thing of drugs. And the watchman warned him that, look, if you tell your parents, you will not get to go out again. Okay, so just keep quiet and I'll continuously take you out, yet exposed him to those kind of vices. So it's issues of communities, issues of school discipline.
But that seems to suggest a child whose parents are not really in his life, and so that's the only source of, trying to get some kind of life outside of the home.
Absolutely, and that is when they, unfortunately, in many of these cases, hang out with the bad people.
And I'm coming to you, Nanaya, and just to give us a bit of data, in last year we recorded at least 6 cases, very serious ones. January, the 30th of January, students from Kumasi Technical and Kumasi Anglican clashed after a competition, resulting in an injury, damage to property. In February, students of Salaga SHS were arrested with pistols after stabbing a colleague during a fight. Again, in that same February 23rd, at Sokode Senior High Technical School in Sokode, Etoi, students engaged in a violent clash with the local youth. Again, in that same February, just a week after, students of Christian Methodist SHS armed with weapons clashed with local youth over an alleged theft. In April, a shooting incident occurred at the Seventh-day Adventist Church in Kumasi, where a student accidentally shot 2 colleagues after bringing a gun to the school. And that's what you referred to earlier. And then July, 5 students sustained various degrees of injuries following a clash between another school, Technical Institute, and Vitin Technical Senior High School. As a parent, really, how do you see where this is also coming from?
Beatrice, let me say good evening to your viewers and good evening to my colleagues, a panelist. You see, I'm quiet. I am a bit, all these things have happened, and you see, when it happens on its own, you don't see the numbers like you have enumerated it. The worrying part is that a gun is not a prospectus. It's not part of the prospectus. So how does guns get into the hands of these students? At the blind side of the parent, at the blind side of the teacher. So what is actually happening in our schools? Then it means somebody somewhere is reneging on their responsibilities. Either the teacher is reneging, who has custody of the child for a certain period, or parents who are living with the children are also reneging on their responsibility. So in this case, we need to blame both sides, both the teachers and the students. I remember when we were young in secondary school, I am not SHS, I went to O-level. The teachers would come to the dormitories to raid. They would come and search.
What were they looking for?
Whatever it is that is contraband. We had our box rooms, but we had our trunks with us in the houses, in your dormitory. They would come and search. Our seniors would come and search. So if guns can find their way into our schools, then it means it is a problem. The school should be able to know that there's a gun culture going on here. And we should also not forget about gangs. We should not forget that some of these schools have gangs, and these gangs provide arms to our young ones. It is very problematic. The point is that somebody, truly, what I'm trying to see here is that somebody is not looking. Who even teaches these young ones how to shoot? Because if you are operating a gun, whether it's a pistol or it's an AK-47, you need to be trained, otherwise you end up killing yourself. So who taught them how to pull the trigger? So that means that, you see, it is the society itself is failing. Community is failing. I remember as a young girl when I used to walk through the streets of Kumasi, Asuka, there was one particular woman who would always make sure that I'm reported to my mother if I'm doing the wrong thing. And I was always very careful. And that's the grandmother.
I guess you didn't like her.
No, I liked her. She was my auntie, the grandmother of the queen mother of Mampong, Auntie Agi. She would always make sure when I'm misbehaving, she would look at me and say, and I used to misbehave. She would look at things and say, Naya, you are being stubborn here. I'm going to tell your father. If it's my father, then I'm in trouble. Do you get me? Parents were at home. Parents made sure that they looked after their children to do the right thing. Now, we are even saying that when you beat a child, it is wrong. We are copying wrongly. We say that when you correct a child, it's an issue of human rights. For me, it does not make sense to me that if a child misbehaves and I beat that child, you are telling me it's an issue of human rights.
Are they not saying that there are better ways of raising a confident, better child than just subjecting them to beatings when they go wrong?
No, you don't subject them. We were all beaten in school. And because of the cane, I remember Mr. Kenwood in class 5. When we were supposed to recite the times, two times one, 2 times, if you don't do it, you are beaten. It made us better people. There's a difference between correcting somebody and molesting and abusing somebody. There are 2 different things. If somebody is molesting and abusing a child, that is different. But to correct a child, these days you see a young person and when they see you, they don't even greet. In those days, we used to read Courtesy for Boys and Girls. And in that book, it told you how to behave with an adult, how to behave in society. These days, it is not there.
It is not there. I'll come back to you. I want to get your preliminary thought as well. Dr. Manu Waru, You're with the GES, and I've gone through your code of conduct. Seems like a very fine print. What have you gathered as regards this very issue that we're talking about?
Thank you very much. And thank you to the in-person colleagues who are panelists. And a good evening to your cherished viewers and discerning listeners. I attended a school in the Upper West region, and in 1990, when I was in Form 5, like the presidential staffer put it rightly, some students fought, and about 11 of them were indefinitely suspended. When I was in lower sixth, there was a serious riot that brought in some weapons into the school, and you could find the school also organizing some of us who they felt were firm. Not even all of us were prefects. And what I learned from that was that there was a tendency for school to think that if you think, just like you see in public, when people are demonstrating, then others are counter-demonstrating. It has a long history. Threatening demonstrations.
I'm sorry, sir, but I'm not sure that you've actually answered the question as regards what data you have on the trends on violence that we've seen in our schools. Yes, I read a bit of that, but as GES, what official information you've gathered? But I want to quickly get a quick answer from you, Mr. Sani. Nanaya asked a question, which for me is a follow-up to the questions I was asking you earlier about how these guns get in the hands of these students. Yes, the Kumasi one, we heard the students say that it was for the father. But in the other instances, what do you think might have gone wrong? The reason these students would have access to this and even know how to operate it?
Well, the weak controls in schools is also a problem, just as Nanaya pointed. Even at the senior secondary school level, we had unexpected, checks by teachers to ensure what is not supposed to be there is not there. But times have changed, unfortunately. And so a lot of students are motivated to bring some of these weapons, hoping that nobody would catch them. Secondly, young people lately, because of social media, are exposed to violent online content. So they develop interest in guns and weapons because they see a lot of that on social media. So by hook or crook means they are able to access these weapons through also gangs. The communities in which they are also is a problem, where there's a lot of conflicts, there's a lot of proliferation of small arms and light weapons. It becomes much easier to access, a weapon than to access 3 squared meals a day, and sometimes these weapons fall into the hands of young people.
But that would mean that this is across the country because, for instance, the data I gave, just the 6 out of what happened last year, they are spread across the country.
Absolutely, absolutely. So that shows the pervasive nature of this problem that we are dealing with. When I was in senior secondary school, there was an incident of involving a gun when a colleague of ours actually brought his father's gun. Unfortunately, it wasn't well handled. I think it fell and, went off and hit a lady in the thigh. And I still remember it like yesterday. So the person, they had to take her through the process, the hospitalization process. And the individual also, that young man who brought the weapon, was taken to the police. And that brings us to the issue of enforcement, okay? How do we ensure that students are dealt with according to the law when they fall foul of it? In most cases that I have personally, done some work on, a lot of them are criminal in nature, but mostly we want to treat it as if it is a misdemeanor and address it within the school disciplinary system.
That's what you're saying you've seen.
Yes, but that is why I'm very excited about this code of conduct. Okay, and I see under the offenses, a lot of it is report to the police.
Or total dismissal.
Or total dismissal. But a lot of it is criminal in nature.
Let me come back to you, Mr. Kofi Raphael, because when Nanaya was talking, you were making some inputs, really. I realized that you had some other stuff to add as regards really what the problem is and why we are where we are.
Thank you very much. You know, we cannot be more Catholic than the Pope. The person who created the world, which is God that we all serve, whether you are a Muslim, whether you are a Christian, whether you are a Buddhist, whether you are a free thinker, as far as you have conscience, it means that you know what is good and what is bad. The God that we serve, from where I sit as somebody who is a Bible-believing person, knows that the Bible says that when you spare the rod, you spoil the child. So I was just so excited when my senior sister was drawing our attention to the fact that what we find ourselves in is a self-inflicted ego. You see, truth be told, the way we're trained is different from the way the Gen Zs of today are being trained. And we've been trained to know that discipline, character formation, excellence in academic performance cannot be achieved on the altar of mediocrity. When you started the conversation, you spoke about the incident at Kadi Senior High School, where a teacher who was doing his work in a professional manner had students confronting him because he didn't allow them to engage in examination malpractices. And I was so happy that the court system was very, very strict, and they ensured that, first of all, the students, those who were 18 years and above, were remanded in prison custody, and then the minor, the juvenile, was remanded in police custody for 2 weeks. And the next time they called the case, they used our criminal codes to deal with the issue expeditiously, and they fined people. This is the way we should go.
I find that people are still contesting. They think the 15,000 for the four of them is not enough.
Let me explain something to you. If you read our Ghanaian codes, you see, there are different shades of, excuse my language, violence, or maybe when there's a mob action. It depends on the nature of the offense. What happened, there was no any clear-cut evidence that the teacher was so brutalized to the point that probably he was amputated or he had some body deformity. So depending on the nature of the offense, when you read it, it tells you, depending on the gravity of the offense, it tells you how the punishment must be. And in this situation, we know that the lawyer, looking at within the context of the law, took a decision that was within the confines of the law. If we all do this, and we try to report, and beyond reporting, we don't leave it at that level, we have the National Commission for Civic Education, which is a body which is supposed to engage communities. Because NCCE, I've been asking myself, all the areas that are reported incidents of violence, when they are able to resolve it, what are the measures we put in place to make sure that when we identify the underlying causes and we know the history of those communities? Because our brother said something that what we find ourselves in is not new, because every community that you find themselves in, the rate of violence commensurate with the behavior of the people in that community. That is why I always believe and always keep on saying that every child is a product of his or environment. And for that matter, if we as a country, and I would urge my senior sister to look at this issue as a state issue. Government must be able to set the pace and make sure that we all come on board and collaborate and make sure there's no space for whether it is a student who is misbehaving, whether it's a teacher who is misbehaving, whether it is a parent who is misbehaving, or whether there's somebody within the confines of the law who is supposed to work and has become very negligent. And out of his negligence, people are misconducting themselves and making sure that, because all these incidents that happen, we see that there's destruction of properties, both private and public properties. There are injuries to students, there are injuries to teachers. But when these things happen, the media is good at reporting the story, but they are not good at following up to see to it that the story, we were able to bring a finality to it. Because when you're asking about data, about cases that have been reported, there are reported cases and there are unreported cases. But the truth of the matter is that the Ministry of Education, the Ghana Education Service, and we bodies as maybe PTAs who are the consumers of educational knowledge, and other stakeholders like the NCC, the Peace Council, and other people who are interested in make sure the environments are very peace and stable, the police, when they get this, we come together, we'll be able to get data to know that, look, the way the trend is going, because if you look at last year...
Are you implying that they may not have the data?
Look, let me tell you something. Ghana, sometimes we joke too much in this country. And me, when I say it, they say I'm difficult. But that's the reality. I've been in the space for 22 good years. I can tell you. I don't remember the last time that GS or Ministry of Education wrote to heads of schools to tell us that, look, have you, in your engagement with students, have you cited any underlying causes of certain things that can lead to students trying to engage in violent conduct, or your communities? Are there any things that are underlying current that...
Are you a headmaster yourself?
Why? I'm a head of the school.
Okay.
Why? 22 years in the space. I head a school. Now I'm on secondment. But the fact of the matter, if I'm on secondment from GS with another body, I'm still... my parent body is the GS. And my condition of service cannot be varied. So anything that goes with issues about educational issues, every day I can show you evidence of data that we hold and we know what is happening in our schools. I'm not trying to blame anybody, but I'm just saying that as a country, we need to up our game in terms of this engagement. If we are resetting a country, we have to look at the loose ends of every system and try to tighten it. And where there are strong policy reforms that we are doing well, we should be able to hold the bull by the horn and make sure that we push the frontiers and make sure people are held accountable for their actions and inactions.
I'm coming back to you, Doc. I hope that in just a few seconds you'll be able to answer the question on what kind of data you've gathered, and then we can make progress with the conversation as regards your responses, sir.
Thank you very much. And for the second, I hope I won't get a call. I was just setting up my laptop. I thought I could get away with it using my phone. So apologies for the disruption. But like the PTA secretary indicates, we have records of these incidents, and we don't have intentional data on each year how many violent actions take place that we can go and mention that in 1990 this number happened, 2005 this number happened, but we are keeping track, and each one of them we put in measures that will be deterrent enough. So I must be very frank, we don't keep, where I am now, we are looking at data for decision making outside of Accra. And I know that, myself as somebody who is interested in data, we are working to improve the system. But we don't have data where we can go, well, even for what you have mentioned incidents. And that certainly doesn't constitute data, because for data, we want a consistent running system that we can determine whether the trend is increasing, stable, or is now declining. And that is what I was just struggling to say by going back. So that's the answer to...
So, Doc, let me get you. Essentially, what you're saying is that you have an idea of the incidents happening around, but you cannot even tell the trends because you don't have proper data as GES.
Yes, we are working to have that. We don't have that to mention each year what has happened. Doesn't
GES have a research team or to gather such information for you?
It's a system we are working to.
And you've gone off again, Doc. We can't hear you. What did you say?
Can you hear me?
Okay, we lost him again. Doc, you really need to fix this because there are some questions you need to answer so we're able to address some of these issues moving forward. But I think there's still a problem with your video. Doc, can you hear us? Hello, Doc. Okay, you're still here on Agenda on TV3. When we come back, we'll try and get some more responses from Dr. Mana Waru, who is the Acting Director General of the Ghana Education Service in charge of quality and access, and also bring you some more from the panel here as regards what we need to do to deal with this problem. Do stay with us.
Scary situation that we have to come to terms with. We are not even looking at triggers. What are the triggers for what is going on? We are not looking at the psychology of the children. What is going on? What is the psychology of these children? We are not even looking at neighborhoods. When it happens, we just talk about it and it's gone. We are not looking at neighborhoods. Which neighborhoods are they coming from? We are not looking at family structures. Are these children from single-parent homes? Are these children from homes where the father is not around? We need to look at even the kind of families they are coming from.
Let me understand what you said. You said the GS is not doing anything, and then
no, they don't have a clue. I mean, it's as if they don't even know what is going on.
So you think they are sleeping on the job?
Yes, I mean, for this one, they are. Because it keeps happening. It keeps happening in different schools. And it's as if it is repetitive. And the trend keeps increasing. So when it does, what kind of structures have they put in place to ensure that it doesn't happen? Some of them we don't even hear about. There are others that are large scale we hear about. Some we don't even hear about them.
You say they are sleeping on the job, but at the same time you say they're overwhelmed. How do you reconcile these two expressions?
They are overwhelmed because they don't know what is going on. Overwhelmed in the sense that not as if they know what is going on. They don't know what is going on. So at a point, when you get overwhelmed, you just say that, oh, let it be. And that is what I'm seeing now. Because you see that the trajectory is so repetitive. And it is not interesting. Guns in the hands of young people. That is very scary.
As
And knives. You remember somebody killed somebody in one of these schools in Accra? Do you get me? I think Odogono also. They have weapons, deadly weapons in their hands. And the GS is not even finding out where are these people getting the weapons from? Where are these young ones getting the weapons from? Then it means that we should even bring the police to look at the kind of weapons these young ones are using. And where are they? Because when the police sees a bullet that is expended, the police can immediately know that this one is from this gang, this one is from here. They know. So why are we not even involving the police? It is very imperative that we involve specialized people like Sani here. The GES should be able to contract the services of security experts and the police to let us know what is going on. For now, the GES concerning this matter is like this, my page. There's so much, and they don't even know where to tackle it from.
Mr. Sani, as a security person, how worried are you? Listening to the responses from the GS, they don't seem to know what to do.
Well, I'm surprised because I believe in the quality of leadership the GS has today. Professor Ernest Kofi Davis, the Minister of Education, Haruna Idrisu. These are people I know. These are people I know are committed to addressing any issue confronting young people, okay? They say we are resetting the system. This has been happening for some time now. Now we know what the issues are. As a criminal researcher, I do know before any decision can be taken, it has to be based on empirical data. Yeah. Okay, so like you mentioned, the school management thing. The MS. The MS. Education Management Information You can have it rolled out to all schools. So either on daily, weekly, monthly basis, they just go and click how many incidents have you recorded? What are the nature of those incidents? And it's based on that. This is not rocket science, okay? So it is based on those records that will be able to identify, hey, I think there's a problem with mental health. What do we do? Do we promote guidance and counseling? Oh, I think there's a problem with community insecurity. So government should work more to ensure that there's a problem with parenting. How do we involve parents in this whole scheme of affairs? And like I indicated, I'm so confident in the leadership. They just need support, okay? And hopefully we should be able to, as it were, make gains. But Beatrice, let me also add that this is everybody's responsibility, whether you work for the GS or not. Parents have a very important role to play in that regard, okay? And I always tell, I am a Zongo person, and I always tell my Zongo people, look, you see a young man, he just completed SHS, he's even grown, JHS. He goes out, then comes home with a Range Rover. Or he comes home with a Benz or a Honda Accord. Now, believe it or not, some parents are not even able to ask the child who doesn't work, how did you get this car? Rather, the mother would sit in the car. She'll be driven to a wedding reception. Then she will tell everybody, oh, my last born, that is his car. So that is also indicative of the kind of parenting that we have these days.
You are getting irresponsible parents, that's what you're saying?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that is what is shaping young people of today. And a lot of them take that character to their schools. They don't always form it within the school system. Yes.
I just want to come in. You see, everything that we are talking about here, for me, early warning signs, to be able to curb it is key. We don't wait for it to happen, then we investigate to find out what happened. Sometimes there are signs, there are triggers. And also, Sani, I don't want you to use the Zongos as an example, as if it's a stereotype. When you go to the University of Ghana, go to Tech, go to Winneba, there are cars parked there where the students are not in school. There are young girls who cannot even take these cars home because they don't want their parents to know that they are driving these cars around town when they are on campus. We are talking about only SHS. Go to the universities. The universities might not be guns, but other things are also going on. They're creeping in. And if I talk about GS, you see, the children, these crimes happen when the children are not at home, when they are in your custody.
I want to take you back. If you say other things are creeping in, what other things are you talking about aside from guns and knives?
There are so many things that are going. I don't even want to miss. Some of them are not even pleasant. There's a story of a man who went somewhere and his daughter was an escort. His own daughter was an escort. And I don't want to go into these details of things that are good. Look, I took a friend's son to school, and at the porter's lodge, the porter asked me, "Madam, what did you bring?" I thought he was looking for money. He said, "Madam, what did you bring?" I said, what are you talking? He said, "What human being did you bring here?" And I said, "I brought a human being, a boy." He said, "Okay, then let him stay." Madam, he said, "Madam, I'm telling you, if you brought a girl, I would have asked you to take the girl home and let her come as a day student in the university." The things that are going on with our girls, with our boys, the kind of things they are doing, smoking weed, drugs, selling drugs, it is so much. So I am saying that even though when it comes to the university, we assume they are adults, but these days they go to school very young. When we went to universities, we were older. The reason why I'm blaming the GS is that our children are in their custody when these things happen. So you need to look at triggers. They are in their custody.
And I'll come to you again, Mr. Let me just get his response very quickly, and I'll give you time to talk. Doc, if you can, hopefully your line is better now. You told us before we went on the break that you do not even have the data that would help you do the kind of analysis that would eventually lead to getting some solutions. Are you able to tell us how long you've been in this to an extent that you do not have any data, and are things that you're sleeping on the job?
Well, I think my senior sister is looking at the issue and possibly making a judgment on my honest answer that we are working on the data.
How long?
Yes, and when you talk about how long, you should also ask that is there no record on it already? Because you are talking about Ghana Education Service. And I'm saying that we don't have that to speak with trends. But every issue that happens, as we speak, we have 10 committees running, and we are dealing with each issue as they come up. But it's on a singular issue, a direct question you ask, whether we have data on the violence that have taken place. And when I know that, then I know if I say yes, we'll have to be able to tell each year for a long time. Certainly, I know we are not just looking at 2025, since Ghana was not born in 2025. So I'm being sincere.
So, Doc, let me perhaps help you. Let me perhaps help you. In the last 10 years, what kind of data have you gathered?
That's exactly what I'm saying. We are working to research. And so we are working on the data. We have set committees to get the data on how these things happen. But we have, for what has been happening, every time that we have the issue, we set a committee to deal with the issues. And we have written to the schools to ensure that they take a number of actions bearing in mind the rights of the children and also the right to ensure that we bring responsible children up. The fact that we don't have exact trends that show what happened each time, I mean, respectfully, should not be read to mean we are sleeping on the job.
So you disagree with that opinion that you're sleeping on the job?
Yes, please. Yes, please.
You said that you have 10 committees that are running. Are you able to tell us what those committees have told you as regards what's happening so far?
When we take up an issue on discipline, for instance, at Ghana High, Ghana Senior High, Ghana High, Accra High School, we had to talk to the children, talk to the parents, and send all the children to various schools based on our agreement with the parents. And so we try to do that. I mean, just to ensure that others who think that they can be violent will be very cautious. And depending on the code, whether it's a first offense or second offense, or what is seen to be repeated, and the gravity of the offense, we are careful what sanction we give. And so the current management is doing the best that it can, and we are working on the data. As I speak, we are in a program that we are dealing with how to develop data for policy making. And that's currently what we are doing. And one of the things we intend to work on is discipline, and then the issue of violence in our schools.
You intend to work on discipline, but that is already spelled out in your code of conduct. I can actually read to you flouting lawful authority. I have the code
of conduct with me, Beatrice, but I'm saying that when we are talking about data, it's holistic. It will cover everything so that we can speak to them next time you ask about. Because if we can talk about data, then we must be able to also tell the trend. And that's the point I'm making. But we are doing what is it that we have to do. And like Adib indicated, you have heard the Minister for Education say openly that some of the things our students are doing are un-Ghanaian. We have all been watching the media space. You have seen that he is so forceful that you may think he's not, doing politics. You have heard the Director General for Ghana Education Service, Professor Ernest Kofi Davis, on his uncompromising stance on discipline and its related effects. So what we need to do is to be very objective about this and know that it has been running. Violence in schools far older than all those of us, so far as we are concerned. But then we cannot sit aloof, and we are doing the best that we can to. We have also written letters to the schools to ensure they inspect periodically. We want to indicate without doubt that this is a shared responsibility. Students come from homes, so we expect parents to help us. And that's how come we don't issue sanctions without involving parents to ensure that they know every step of the way what sanctions we are giving out.
Doc, let me ask you this before I come to Mr. Kofi Raphael. For instance, the incidents that I mentioned, some of the students were in possession of guns. If you look at your own code of conduct that happily you said you have with you, the punishment should be dismissal, police, and seizure of weapons. Are you able to give us information on these students who were caught in possession of these weapons? Were they sacked, as your own code of conduct has spelled out?
As we move on in this country, we should also realize what the code says and what is it that we are trying to do as a people. When it is a first, whatever offense that somebody has conducted and is criminal, give indefinite suspension, take the person through the due process to ensure if the sanction is obvious that the sanction deserves dismissal, we do not hesitate to dismiss. If it's indefinite suspension, we do not hesitate. And if it is withdrawal, looking at the nature of the offense, we withdraw so that such students may be allowed to go into other schools after some time.
I'm sorry, sir. I will have to interrupt you. Forgive me. I just needed a yes or no answer because I need to come to Mr. Kofi Raphael. I was asking those who were caught in possession of firearms. Your code of conduct says that one of the main options is to dismiss them. Out of 3 options, have you had any of them dismissed?
Well, I may have to confirm in due course, but if the sanction for the current regime, if the sanction is dismissal, is dismissal.
Okay, thank you very much. I'll come back to you, sir. Mr. Kofi Raphael, you wanted to add in a bit more as regards really what we need to deal with this problem.
First of all, thank you. I think that it's sometimes very good that to have people like him giving very honest opinions. It tells all of us that, look, as a country, development in education, together we build. They alone cannot do it. We alone sitting here cannot do it. The state must also resource the Ministry of Education and Ghana Education Service to be able to make sure that these schools are actually well regulated in terms of enforcing discipline to avoid school violence. The major issues that we want to speak to now is the fact that, look, let's propose solutions. What is the way forward? Because when I read the Bible, I always tell people that there's only one book called Lamentations. The rest is hope and inspiration. My background, I have Muslims in my home. And when you read the Quran, you don't see so much about blame games. They will tell you about a bad story, but they will tell how God can make it good. And today, God is not sitting on this table. That's why He created us human beings, to find solutions to these problems. So where we sit today, what I think we should look at first of all is how do we strengthen school disciplinary policies? First of all, I would like to urge my senior colleague who is listening to us that they are doing policies, but they don't involve us. And you see, when we are discussing the PT at the national level, he is discussing policy at the national level. So the way when they are doing the code of conduct for students, this document that I'm saying is a very good document. If you go through the document entirely, you don't see that stakeholders that were captured, they actually talk about us as a group. You get it? So if you go and pick school-based PTA and deal with them, they only understand the situation at their level. But they cannot talk about the whole story across the country. So if DS has a decentralized system and then the PTAs too also want to have a national board with decentralized, we should allow that space to work and we should team up more. I think when we put our heads together, we can achieve more and as a team than less as individuals. Enough of the ego, enough of we are in charge, when actually when it comes to issues about children, most of the brand, we parents bear it. So we have to look at it from that perspective. And I keep on saying, whoever we are, whatever position you call, whatever title you hold, the biggest title that even goes with you into your grave but still bears your child name is your parental title. And that title, we can't take it away from us. So we should have to look at it very well in that sense so that we can come out with clear-cut, develop clear-cut policies with stakeholder inputs. Teacher training. These days, guidance and counseling is not so strong in our schools. It's a statement of fact. And we should avoid the traditional roles that we have professional guidance and counseling people. Every teacher, as far as part of your teaching, you must know something about everything that happens within the school space. So we should be able to come out with a clear-cut policy. There are a lot of guidance counseling documents, very nice blueprint documents. But when it comes to building the capacity of teachers, especially in those conflict-prone schools that we know, what remedial measures are we putting in place to make sure that we can equip teachers with conflict resolution and classroom management skills to make sure we can minimize this thing? The third one is parental engagement. I said I've spoken enough about that, but I believe that the National Council for Civic Education, NCC, the Peace Council, and other bodies that are in the space of advocacy in terms of making sure that we can manage conflict, and this, like our brother who is into security and intelligence gathering and all those, we have to look at it. There's the Education Management Information System, the EMIS, is a very good data platform that the GES and other stakeholders in education sometimes look at it. They're able to know the number of schools across the country that have dilapidated classrooms, that have furniture situation, and all those things. But we can, as he said, we are resetting. We can review that document and then add issues about this school violence and as our senior sister said, that there's early warning signals. I think if they get those who are into security issues, they'll be able to help probably this thing. The other one, which is very important for me, is the community involvement. And if you could be
wrapping up for me.
The community involvement. You see, these days, schools are found in communities. For me, I always have a challenge. And look, I've been saying this, and it's like sometimes the schools are called government-assisted schools. They are not entirely government-funded schools. So the fact that the state has a role to play, if the state is playing 80% of the role, the 20%, the chiefs, the community leaders, the district assemblies, where we have district education oversight committees, in fact, most of these days, they are just there on paper. They are not working. All these people, the DCs, as part of the KPIs, we should be able to investigate whether they are cooking data for us or actually they are actually in charge and they are on the ground. So when we are able to deal with these issues, and then the district directors of education and all the stakeholders at that level, you see the PTAs, you see the old student association, you see all the other stakeholders. When we put our heads together, the overwhelming challenges that the GES is confronted with and the Ministry of Education is confronted with, the society and the community will take part and absorb some of the shocks and be able to make sure we can minimize this thing to the barest.
Mr. Sani, let me get your recommendations really moving forward.
Well, in criminology, there's what we call rational choice theory, simply based on the fact that criminals are more likely to perpetrate crime if they feel they will not be caught, okay? And if the probability of them getting caught is high, they would naturally be disincentivized from perpetrating the crime in the first place. So we need to have a robust enforcement mechanisms. I mean, beyond the laws, beyond the code of conduct, if we are not able to enforce it, we make it useless, okay? We need to improve security on our campuses. The installation of security systems, such as cameras. Usually, cameras are not installed for you to play back to see who did what. But the fact that there is a camera watching,
it's enough.
As rational as we are, I mean, and that's my PhD thesis, though, examining.
So you should be watching it whilst it's happening, so that if you can save the situation, you can.
The thing is, the fact that it's there, it will not do the wrong thing.
It's only telling you that, look, you can be exposed.
It is a preventive mechanism.
It's like a big
Not
brother.
a
It's like a big brother.
Yes.
Okay. Then the early warning, like we've all mentioned, is extremely critical. Even if we can develop an early warning mechanism of some sort. Okay. There's the need for teachers and students to have a very close relationship. Mostly we feel they are children, we can make the decisions without involving. No, let us involve them. Let us give them responsibilities so they know how difficult it is to manage people. Okay? By so doing, we are able to get them to perform more progressive roles.
Let me ask you this briefly. When the incident in the Ashanti region happened, there were people who felt that perhaps we should send or have police officers in some of these schools. What do you think about such recommendations?
The thing is, you should have the school security. In my opinion, I think it's enough. Unless they are overwhelmed, unless there's a situation where, they wouldn't be able to manage, then you call the
school is a community on its own.
Absolutely.
So if the police is there to enforce...
But mostly for a lot of the schools, like the University of Ghana, there's a police station nearby. Yes. But you don't have the police taking part in the day-to-day security
so they can
management.
Do some patrols.
But they do some... Perfect.
They can do some patrols.
There's this route between Ivandi, you pass by Pentagon to the main campus. It used to be very quiet, and there was a lot of phone snatching there. But when the police started the patrols there, together with the school
it has gone
security, it has stopped. Okay.
So that's your final word.
Yes.
Let me get your final thoughts, and I'll come to you, Doc, for your final word as well.
See, when we take our children to school, they are not criminals. So something happens and they are criminalized. I think that there should be a lot of awareness creation amongst teachers, parents, and students. That when I bring my child to school, there should be an interaction where the code of conduct will be given to us. And salient points in the code of conduct that borders on criminality should be told, highlighted, and parents will be aware that if your child does ABCD, the person is coming home. And that child will be told that, you've heard, when you misbehave and you get involved with such ABCD, you are coming home. The code of conduct should be made alive. I think that is lying somewhere and it's gathering dust. I think they should pick it up and make sure that it works. There's a need to also include mental health education in our curriculum.
All right. Let me get your final thoughts,
I'm not done.
Doc. You're not done? Okay.
Beatrice, you haven't changed.
Please,
we don't like
if you could.
No, but yes, we should include mental health in our curriculum for the children themselves to know if they have any psychological issues. Do you get me? And there should be teacher-parent interaction. There are times that the teachers are far away. The students are far away. Parents too are far away. They only meet when there's a PTA or the day that you have to visit the children. There should be interaction, especially amongst teachers. And it's a difficult one, but there should be a lot of interaction. And they should really, really, really make this code alive. So the children themselves will know that if I go off, I'm in trouble.
If I go off, I'm in trouble. Doc, I'm coming back to you in like 30 seconds. If you can tell us, you told us that 10 committees are currently working. Are there any timelines for them?
10 committees.
Are there any timelines for them? And that will be your final word, sir. I'm sorry, you're muted. We can't hear
But
you.
they are not only on students. They are not only on violence on students in schools. But let me be quick to say that the Minister for Education is very clear because he's the lead politician who will possibly hold the hand of the technocrats, so to speak. The minister says some of these things that are happening by our students, some of the things our children are doing are un-Ghanaian. And I have given my full backing to the Director General of Ghana Education Service to deal ruthlessly within the confines of law any student who crosses the line. And anybody, you can check, anybody who crosses the line henceforth is punished according to the stipulated rules and regulations. We are people who give knowledge, who give skill, who provide skills and who mold character. Currently, our guidance and counseling unit has introduced BLC.
I'm sorry, sir, if you can wrap up for me, please. We're out of time.
Yes. So when it comes to mental, in fact, we have gone ahead of Nana Gentua when it comes to mental health. We are yet to put it directly in the curriculum. But last year, our continuous professional development day was based on mental health training for our teachers so that they can also, in turn, help give support to our children.
Indeed. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Dr. Isahak Manuwaru. He is the Acting Director General of the Ghana Education Service in charge of quality and access to you as well. Thank you very much.
Deputy Director General.
Deputy Director General, yes. Yes, in charge of, yes, I said that, in charge of quality and access. Thank you very much, Doc, for speaking to us, joining us. Also to you, Nana Ajantua, parent, presidential staffer, thank you for joining us. To you, Mr. Gapsin Kofi Raphael, who is Secretary, National Council, PTA. Thank you so much for joining us. And as well to you, Mr. Deep Sani, Security Analyst, Jati K Center. Thank you as well for joining us on Agenda. My name is Beatrice Sedu. Thank you very much for joining us on Agenda tonight. Do join us again next week. Have a good evening.